Okay, Ananya, I think.
Yeah.
Chinese group, any issues at all?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, that one separate one. But how are you gonna pass it to him? I email it to you.
Okay, everybody back. Give me a number. Give me a number 3 on the chat. Can we continue? Is everybody back? Number 3. Okay. Okay, great. We are back to 2 channels. Okay. Okay. So this morning we were talking about blood investigations. Okay, now and I wanted you all to actually have at least an overview and understanding about the importance of blood screenings and investigation. Okay, because some of the parameters that was mentioned there, actually has to do with this particular topic, the elimination system, elimination organs, and how when we look at an overall picture, if we find waste products, waste materials, okay, within our circulation, things that are not supposed to be there or things that are not supposed to be there beyond a certain amount, okay, it puts a tremendous stress on our overall physiology, okay, and that basically is how disease starts. Diseases basically start with this word called accumulation. Okay, when the body tends to start accumulating toxins, okay, that's when diseases start. So you remember this now when we looked at that triangle of health and we looked at the journey of disease from number 1 to number 4. As accumulation gets more and more prominent, as the body tends to accumulate more and more, okay, systems efficiency tends to drop more and more until a level where, okay, now not only is cells compromised, tissues, okay, get compromised, and eventually the organ itself gets compromised. Okay, and that's the sad part. The sad part is this, when something is happening at a cellular level and to probably mid-level tissue, all that is totally asymptomatic. Like you don't feel any differences that is significant. You know, only when organ function starts to get impacted, get affected, that's when, okay, symptoms become clearer, okay, and symptoms become noticeable, okay. But at that state, you are already in a disease state, So at that level, you're already in a disease state, and this is generally what happens to most people. So and this is where sometimes adapting a preventive lifestyle, emphasizing on wellness and all that, okay, requires what we call, okay, a total package, not just in terms of activity that you are engaged in. It's not just about what you are eating, the nutrition part. It's not just about the supplements that you're taking. It's not just about the hydration. Okay, it's not just about the sleep and rest. It's not just about the activity and exercise. It's not just about how you manage your stress, but it's also monitoring, okay, what is happening in your physiology, which you can't do, okay, just by looking at yourself in the mirror. To a certain extent, yes, okay, but in a broader context, no, you can't do it. So do it yourself kind of monitoring, things like monitoring blood sugar, monitoring blood pressure, okay, body composition, okay, using an oximeter to look at oxygen saturation and all that, okay, those are all fantastic, which we are also going to cover under vital signs, okay, but on a periodic basis, okay, if you're below 30 years of age, okay, most people will do by doing an investigation at least once every 1.5 to 2 years, if generally you're okay. But if you cross 30, okay, do it yearly. You don't need to do a complete extensive investigation every year, okay? But what you can do is, okay, you can go every other year of doing a detailed one, okay? And in between, what you do is you do a monitoring screening, which we will talk more about when we reach the topic of vital signs. you know Now that is one way that you can do something based on evidence, okay, and to have a proper justification of this term called check and balance. Very, very important. Don't assume. By now you should already realize that almost 80% of the journey to a disease is asymptomatic. There is no symptoms. It's very silent. You know, Look at high blood pressure. Huh? What's the most common symptom of high blood pressure? No symptom. Until a blood vessel in the brain bursts. And sad to say, many people find out they are hypertensive when that happens. Sad but true. So don't assume. You can never assume, okay, what is happening within the biochemistry of your body, just by what you go through on a day-to-day basis. You cannot completely assume. Yes, there are telltale indicators and all that, but don't take a chance. You know, Wellness and prevention, there is a small premium to pay. And I use the word small premium to pay. And sometimes the small premium comes with expenses. Yes, I totally agree. And many people also come and tell me, you know what they tell me? Prof, but wellness prevention expensive. Sometimes, I need to be a bit more selective on my food. Sometimes I need to be taking certain types of nutritional supplements. It can cost me 300-400 ringgit a month, sometimes 500 ringgit a month. Okay, these are people who don't understand. You want to know what is really expensive? Try getting a disease, you know, because, falling sick today with a degenerative disease is very costly. It definitely affects you financially, and obviously your lifestyle, your overall quality of life is affected, and I've seen this happening over and over again. So the small premium that we pay to take care of ourselves is actually an investment on ourselves. you know and there are many things that we can do. Doesn't even come with a dollar figure. It doesn't. It is things that you do proactively, okay, to mitigate and minimize your risk. you know don't allow accumulation. That is the tagline. Don't allow accumulation of toxins. 80% of diseases today is caused by accumulation of toxins. 20% caused by germs, microbes. 20%. So infection that causes diseases, and that accounts to about 20% of cases today. I'm talking about developing to developed countries. In third world countries, maybe the infection percentage can be a bit higher. But degenerative disease, chronic degenerative diseases, lifestyle diseases, that is the big concern today. Okay. Besides cardiovascular disease, today, the big C, cancer, is something that every one of us need to start paying attention to more diligently. You know, for me, on a daily basis, and I'm telling you, on a daily basis, I will receive info, receive calls, messages of people requesting for help because of either themselves or a loved one, have been diagnosed with cancer every single day. you know so look at what is happening out there in the real world. You look at all the medical centers, you look at under research and development for drugs and all these kind of things. A big percentage of the investments that are put into those categories are related, okay, to cancer. Okay, and it's not about prevention, it's about treatment. It's about treatment. Because why? It's a huge uh, business, okay, of treating cancer. Huge. Sometimes I use this word, in inverted commas. As far as the sickness industry is concerned, cure might not be a good business, but treatment is a very good business. So these are things that, it's the real world. So we have to be very proactive. Okay. And being proactive, one of the very, very important steps is, okay, slow down the accumulation of toxins, prevent the accumulation of toxins, help the body to eliminate it. Don't let it accumulate, because the aging process itself is something that we cannot stop. We can delay it. Okay. We cannot stop it. But as we are aging, the ability of the body to naturally contain toxins becomes weaker. And this will happen. So that means that the body needs more and more help. It's just like you having a car. It's just like you having a car. The day you bought the car brand new, it only required regular maintenance. Regular maintenance, as long as you follow the periodic maintenance, what is done, all that, the vehicle will perform well for at least the first 5, 6 years. But after the 6 years, which is normally when the warranty is over, now you notice that, hey, to maintain this vehicle, it is not just about basic maintenance. Now, I also need to consider, okay, replacing wear and tear parts. Wear and tear is happening. So you notice that as the vehicle is getting older, to maintain the optimum performance of the vehicle, you need to focus more and spend more on the maintenance of the vehicle. Yeah, some people will say, "But okay, lah, prof, 6, 7 years warranty over, I changed my car. Lah. Okay, you can do that for your vehicle." But some people say no. Like for me, personally, I make sure that my vehicles last at least 12 years. Maintain it well. You know, there's no two ways about it. Okay. And you can do that for any kind of possession, okay, machine, equipment, all we can do. But what about our body? Can you also say, okay, change new body lah. Tukar badan baru. Oh, can't do that, right? Not yet, at least. And I use that term, okay, in a very high confidence that within the next 20 years, we are already going to be in a state where medical science, medical technology will be able you to actually have spare parts for yourself. You can actually be in a position to have a spare liver, spare kidneys, everything lah. The only biggest concern is the brain lah. Because everything else you can have a spare part. But transferring of thoughts and thinking better where the brain is concerned, how do you change a brain? Okay, so that part science still cannot give you a possible. Yeah. Okay, I want all of you all to go and watch this movie. Yeah? Go and watch this movie. It's an old movie, like it's an old movie. Okay, I want you to go and watch this movie called The Sixth Day. Can somebody put that on the chat? The Sixth Day. The sixth, six, the number six, sixth day. The hero of the movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, the hero of the movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a very entertaining movie. It's a nice movie to watch. But I want you to see behind the movie, the message behind the movie. Okay, watch this movie. Okay, and in that movie, okay, of course, they're talking about what's going to happen in the future and all these kind of things. I want you to observe how they transfer thoughts to a new body. You know, and is that possible in the future? I personally believe it's possible because we are actually heading in that direction. But until the time that happens, okay, we still need to take care of this good old body. Understand? Maintain it well. The 6th day. There somebody has put it out on the chat. Okay, watch that. It'll give you an idea. A lot of movies and all that is based on some concept and some ideas that is not there yet, but there's a very high possibility. Okay, so we're doing so many things. Remember I told you about the spare organs and all that. In fact, even the present technology, the present know-how as well, is able to produce organs through stem cell cloning technology and all that. Your own organs can be cloned, just to let you know. And there's no rejection by the body because why? It's your own cells. Understand? Of course, that's why it's also important to generate money, income from that, because obviously it's not going to be cheap. Understand or not? So both the W's are important. W and W, very important. The first W is wellness, very important. The second W is wealth, also very important. Understand or not? So all that, that's why You can actually go out there and see, men will find a way to live forever. So wow. So, you know, but finding a way to live forever is not something that will happen overnight. Of course, we'll go step by step. We might find ways to live an extra 30 years, an extra 40 years, an extra 50 years. Okay. And you can see that already happening. You know why? In the year 1930, what was the average lifespan of a human being? The average lifespan of a human being in the year 1930 was around 45 years. Yeah, 45 years average lifespan. Okay. And in the turn of the century in the year 2000, the average lifespan of a human being was already around 73 to 75. So within that 70 years, okay, we found ways to increase the average lifespan by almost 30 years. What changed? Did gravity change, or suddenly God came and gave us an incredible gift that make us live longer and all that? Yeah, of course. All this. Everybody believes is also divine intervention, messages coming through people, through knowledge. But you see the trend; it has already started. So generally, the human lifespan is getting higher. You know, the original body actually has a lifespan between 120 to 150 years. The original body, your original heart, your original liver, and all that actually has a lifespan of between 120 to 150 years. When somebody dies at the age of 80, actually it's premature because our biological aging is moving faster than our chronological aging. So we are dying premature, too fast. But as we start living longer, today you hear many people reaching 90, and reaching 100 is not something that is uncommon already. Okay. But there are factors. The biggest factor is, almost every other part of the body is able to sustain to a certain level of efficiency in terms of support, but we have to be very careful of the brain, degeneration of brain. And this is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing because toxins affect our neurons, our brain cells, more than any other cell in the body, generally. So when we lose brain cells are meant to last very long. So when we lose brain cells for any reason, after certain age, when I say certain age, when you start crossing 21 to 25, the body's ability to replace brain cells is almost negligible. So if you lose it, it's gone. Understand? So we have to preserve it. It's not like other cells in the body. You know, the liver can lose 50% of its function, and all that, and it's able to regenerate back. Many systems in the body, the healing, but brain is a bit tough. And what is one of the biggest enemy to the brain? Oxidative stress, free radicals, okay, inflammation, and all that is generally caused by toxins because there's something called the blood-brain barrier, blood-brain barrier, BBB. Okay, the blood-brain barrier is there to protect the brain from toxins. That means for anything to cross over the blood-brain barrier, okay, there is a what is this? A very high safety net to only allow, okay, those that has permission to cross over. There are certain conditions to be fulfilled. That's how the brain is protected, okay. But there are some toxins that can cross this. One of it is nicotine. A lot of the party drugs, all the party drugs, and all these kinds of, in the last couple of days we are seeing, a lot of drugs being transported from Malaysia. Malaysia is a hub that supplies to many other countries. All these kinds of, a lot of them you see, oh, what is this? Amphetamine, ketamine, ecstasy, and all that. These are all party drugs, and all that. A lot of these party drugs can cross the blood-brain barrier. Alcohol can cross the blood-brain barrier. So all this. And the other one that is slowly accumulating but surely accumulating is the heavy metals. Heavy metals, lead, aluminum, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, they can cross. And then we start hearing of this particular term called dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. They're all part of brain degenerative diseases. And the number is getting higher and higher and higher in terms of percentage. Uh, all countries, especially developed countries, are affected. One country has already declared an emergency, claiming that public healthcare system is not able to cope up with this. What's the country? United Kingdom. United Kingdom, under NHS, the National Health System, all that, has already made this declaration that the public health system is not able to keep up with number of cases that is affected by dementia. Okay, Alzheimer's is part of the all that. Many dementia is the big word lah. Basically it means brain degenerative diseases. Okay, and one of the triggers, one of the reasons is because of presence of heavy metal. Okay, all this, and it's happening. It's happening. Okay, and it's happening. Because why? Most countries, including Malaysia, Singapore, and all that, we are all heading towards a country that is going to be labeled as the aging population countries. Because why? The aging population is going to cross the 10% mark. For Malaysia, it's 2030. 2030, which is how many years to go? 3.5 years to go. 3.5 years ago, Malaysia is considered the aging population country. Some other countries in the world, Singapore included, Japan, Korea, a lot of the countries, okay, they are already aging population. The number of people being born, because fertility rates are generally low in most developed countries, okay, so more and more people are dying. More and more people are getting older, crossing the 60 mark. So WHO defines seniors between the ages of 60 65. Most countries are talking about a benchmark of anything above 60. Anybody above 60, they are under the senior category. Okay, so we cannot stop the aging process. Okay, we cannot stop the physiological decline of the body. And I use the word cannot stop, but we can definitely slow it down. Okay, and we can definitely age in a much, much healthier manner. And one of the ways to do it is to make sure that the body's natural detoxification and elimination systems are working efficiently. That's what this topic is about. To prevent this word called accumulation. Very, very important. The number one enemy to health today is toxins. The number one enemy. So anything that you do that can minimize the accumulation of toxins is definitely helpful. And there are many things. That's why, you see, physical activity, the mere fact of sweating itself is helping the body detoxify. The interaction between your lymphatic system and your skin, the mere fact of sweating itself. So that's why I say, for most people, you need to sweat continuously at least 30 minutes, a minimum of 3 times a week. If you can do it more, better still. But at least maintain it for 30 minutes. Very important. One of the most efficient ways to get rid of heavy metals, the process of sweating. A little bit of caution for especially those who use a lot of sweat sticks, underarm deodorants, and all these kind of things. Be a bit more selective of what you use. Of course, there are also natural products basing on a lot of one of the main reasons of underarm odor and all these kind of things is because of bacterial presence and all that lah. All that. So the natural ways sometimes uses some certain natural salts and all that. Okay, all this. But many people are using a lot of sweat sticks and all that. And what basically it does is it blocks the pores. Okay, it blocks the sweat pores. Okay, and all these kind of things. So basically, it prevents the sweat from coming out lah. And use logic a little bit. If you prevent, okay, your system, your sweat pores from actually excreting out sweat, is that a good thing? Okay, so the maxilla area, which basically is full of lymph nodes, full of lymph nodes. And the lymph nodes in this area is the one that also removes a lot of toxins from the breast area. The breast area, okay, and it becomes more particular to females, where and I'm not saying males are not affected. Males are also affected by breast cancer and all those issues. But of course, the percentage is much lower. Okay, so we have immune lymph nodes all over the place here that basically accumulates its toxin, and one of the ways it excretes is through the sweat process. And using sweat sticks and using anything that stops that process is basically going to cause a retention of toxins in your area, maxilla area, and this can cause a rise in oxidative stress, inflammation, and some people ask me, Prof, why incidence of breast cancer, the presence of it is also more prominent in females and all that. Yeah, there's a lot of treatments and all that, but the number of cases is hasn't actually gone down. There are more treatment options and all these kind of things. And can this be one of the reasons? All these kind of things, we cannot say for sure yes or no, but it makes sense. Because why? It makes no sense for us to obstruct an excretory process in the body. Yesterday, I met somebody after all the talks and all this, and all this kind of thing. And this is a very successful gentleman. All kind of, he told me, Prof, I got one issue. Can I discuss with you on these kind of things? I said, what? He has a problem with constipation. And this guy is very focused on prevention. He's very wealthy, and all these kind of things. Of course, he's trying to expand to live as long as possible and to make sure his health span is also very long. All these kind of things. All these kind of things. And he says, no, I've tried everything. I've tried all these and all these kind of things, but this constipation issues for the last 20 years, I'm always, having it, and all that, can anything be done about it? Of course, I say the first step is okay, because why, he has tried many different interventions and all these kind of things. Okay, let's do some investigations first and see, if there is anything that we can identify that is out of place and all that, and all this, and the symptoms that he explained. He's 64 years old, you know and what is this, he noticed that his skin health is beginning to deteriorate pretty fast, even with all the different products that he's using and all that, and he's taking, like, the premium of supplements, premium, spends what he told me, about 4,000 average per month on nutritional supplements, a lot of it, from compounding class and all that. So he's spending, but then he noticed that, he seems to be aging faster and all these kind of things, So, and do you all remember this term that I told you all to do a little bit of study, auto intoxication, self-poisoning and all that. And one of the causes is because of, when the digestive tract cannot eliminate efficiently, constipation issues and all these kind of things. On that, of course, when he told me and gave me the symptoms and all that, I can already narrow it down to a few possible reasons, but we needed evidence to support. So, and I told him that, all these are tests can do, and the complete testing itself was almost 12,000. And he said, no, do it, let's do it, and all this kind of thing. Because some of the tests is not done in this country, including heavy metal tests, okay, stool analysis, quite a few combination, and the blood investigation itself involves more than 200 parameters. Not that, this is a gentleman that is already spending a lot, and he's not seeing the results, and he's very proactive, you know, because sometimes we are limited with certain limitations based on gene expression and all this kind. So I'm explaining to him, why because in a layman's view, and even some of those who are well read and all that, they think that, oh, if I do all this, I should see this type of results. Not necessary. All of us are unique. Some of us, sometimes I use this word, sometimes we are blessed a little bit more by having some good inherited genes. So, and that allows us, a little bit of leeway in terms of, even your lifestyle is a little bit abusive, you know, you are able to overcome it and all these kind of things, So, but some are not. They are very proactive in all their activities and all these kind of things, but they have limitations in terms of certain genetic functions. So if you don't know, you know, how are you going to compensate or how are you going to moderate it? You know, so that's the reason why, sometimes, investigating to find out or narrow down possible causes are very important. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that when we come to vital signs and all these kind of things. Okay, let's focus on elimination organs for now, this topic today. Okay, so when we look at elimination organs, we're talking about 6 systems in the body lah. Okay, so when we recall back, when we talk about anatomy, physiology, body systems, and all these kind of things, yeah, we have looked at all the different systems and all these kind of things, and notice that a lot of the systems, they tend to do independent operations on that, but they are interdependent on one another to work in synergy to ensure that the body maintains a homeostasis balance. Okay, so that's generally how the body works. Okay, so similarly, the body also works by now, depending on a couple of systems to do their job and in combination to achieve the goal of what the body needs to maintain. Okay, so what are the 6 different sets of systems that are involved in elimination processes? The first one involves the liver and gallbladder. Now, the liver and gallbladder is also part of the digestive system. They are standalone organs. They are known as accessory digestive organs. Okay, but they also serve a bigger purpose than just digestion. Okay, the liver is known as the primary detoxification organ of the body. At any one time, the liver is handling about 500 processes. Very busy, very robust, but can be affected by certain conditions. Okay, then you got the skin, the largest organ in the body, the barrier system of the immune system. Okay, it does a lot of functions, that prevent the entry of toxins, but it also can be compromised. Okay, the lymphatic system, part of the immune system. Okay, one of its primary goals is to collect tissue fluids that is filled with toxins, waste, and all that, bring it to the first level filtering, which is your lymph nodes. Then to continue circling and eventually through the thoracic duct, which is on the left side of your chest, it will release all the lymph fluids into your bloodstream. And in the blood, all this will go to the liver. Then the liver will do repackaging and all that. Fantastic. We have got very, very efficient systems, but we just need to make sure it works well. Okay. Then obviously, one of the main systems in the body that handles toxins, the gut. Yeah, and all of us have heard of this term. Now, all diseases starts from the gut. You know, what happens there? Conditions related to leaky gut syndrome, conditions related to dysbiosis, uh, conditions required to translocation. So many different things can happen in the gut that can really mess up the body's elimination and detoxification processes. Okay, then we have the kidney, a pair of them, that does so many functions, from pH balance to electrolyte balance to fluid balance, filtering almost 180 to 200 liters of blood every day. Many, many different functions. 2 kidneys, each kidney has 1 million nephrons in them. Mini filters, mini tubular filters, that can remove almost any impurity, if it is functioning well. Okay, and then obviously the lungs. We are breathing an average of 14 to 16 times a minute. Every time we breathe, we are inhaling in toxins continuously. Some people say, but Prof, I don't go outside, I'm only in the house. Indoor air can be up to 50 times more contaminated than outdoor air. So all this, understanding what is particulate matter, components below 2.5 microns, that when you breathe in, your lungs cannot stop it. All the filters in your nasal passage, all the way to your lungs cannot stop it. It reaches your alveoli and straight into the bloodstream. And today we have toxins, heavy metal, that are floating in the air, that are so small that it can get straight into your bloodstream. So all this, so how can the body work hand in hand? Now, can you stop toxins from getting in your body? Cannot. You cannot stop it. Can you minimize? Yes, you can minimize. You cannot stop it. But our body is equipped with very efficient systems to eliminate. That means what it can do is, if it does get into the body has got mechanisms to capture, process, and remove. Now, that's what we need to focus on. Of course, as part of being to preempt, to be proactive, minimize the input. Always that is the first step. Minimize the input. So how to minimize the input? It has to do with what you drink, what you eat, all that, because that's how toxins are getting in. So all that, you can minimize all that. What you put on yourself, all that. So be careful. Some people, don't understand, sometimes when they use cosmetics, whatever that they apply in their body and all these kind of things, a lot of cosmetic products are laden with heavy metal. Aluminum is used in almost every type of cosmetics and body products out there. So many. So many products that have been tested. They say that these are green products and all these kind of things, but there are traces of heavy metal. So that's why I say you cannot totally stop it. But of course you can minimize the input, which is the first step, but then you need to make sure that the efficiency of your elimination organs elimination processes. Okay, so body detoxification systems include respiratory, gastrointestinal, urinary, okay, skin, lymphatic, okay, and of course the liver gallbladder. So we start with the liver gallbladder. So you can see here. So what does the liver do? 500 vital functions, okay, at any one. This is like not just something that is multitasking to do 500 things at any given moment. It's not just multitasking. No, this is a really busy organ, and it's so robust. But keep it healthy. It is meant to do this, and it can do it very efficiently. Okay, and we need to help it as we're getting older. Understand? Okay, so some of the main functions related to immunity. Okay, then synthesis of nutrients. It makes proteins. Okay, it makes cholesterol. 80% of the cholesterol is made by the liver. Okay, it's a warehouse of what is this, of nutrients, storage of nutrients. Okay, synthesis. You can conversion of nutrients from one form to another form. uh, and then, okay, excretion process that is highly dependent on bile. And I'm telling you, after the age of 30, generally, okay, every decade, every 10 years, okay, bile production can drop by anywhere from 10 to 15%. Okay, and that is the start of major accumulation of toxins in the body. Okay, I see so many people that they are hepatobiliary circulation. You see this word? Hepato, Hepato, biliary, Bilary, circulation. Some of you all can go do a little bit more reading on that. Hepatobiliary circulatory system starts to get compromised. Okay, so and that particular term, okay, you can also use on your second assignment that you got now, because it's interrelated to some of the questions that are asked. Hepatobiliary circulation. Okay, so when we actually look at sorry, what happened here? Okay, so when we actually look at some of the other functions, okay, regulates blood clotting, how even vitamin K, even how fibrin, the synthesis of all this done. And of course, the clearing of anything that crosses a certain limit in the body, whether it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. Hormones, enzymes, when it is too much, anything that is too low that the body needs, okay, not enough to support, problem. Anything that's too high is also a problem, because why? When it's too much, it can become a toxin. So it's the job of the liver to get rid of any excess. So blood, okay, clears blood of drugs, chemicals, alcohol. This is just talking about things that can be bad. But hormones, enzymes, certain nutrients, Uh, for example, remember we talked about how important selenium is as a trace mineral. But what happens when you got too much of selenium in the body? Wow, it's a poison and it's a very dangerous poison. So the liver will get rid of it, get rid of excess. Understand? Anything that threatens the body, anything that threatens the body's biochemistry processes, okay, one of the primary organs that actually, okay, sets to maintain that balance is the liver. Converts excess glucose to starch for storage. Glycogen, a polysaccharide. Poly means very high density. Saccharide means a type of sugar. You know, 5% of the liver mass is reserved for glycogen. Can support between 400 kilocalories to about 800 kilocalories of reserve energy. And then it supports digestion massively. Bile is not just to remove toxin, but it also supports as a natural laxative, as a neutralizer, as a fat emulsifier, many things, so many functions, and all that. So you can see what the liver does. Okay, and very robust organ lah. Healthy liver and liver cirrhosis, hardening of the liver. Okay, so you got healthy liver that can move on to a condition called fatty liver. Fatty liver move on to fibrosis. Okay, and fibrosis, if nothing is done, will move on to liver cirrhosis. Permanent scarring, liver cirrhosis, permanent scarring, triggering can trigger liver cancer. People who are severely abusive, chronic alcoholics, okay, drug users, hepatitis. Liver very robust, but very sensitive to a few conditions. One of it is the hepatitis infection. So all that, and when you end up with liver cirrhosis, this one require liver transplant already. So all this, so very robust organ, but also can be limited by certain conditions that can affect it. So we look at the liver is the biggest organ in our abdomen, almost runs right across our abdomen, okay, divided into two main lobes. Okay, so when you actually look at the liver, and you can see a lot of the intrahepatic ducts, and a lot of this is related to biliary ducts, production of bile, okay, and all that, okay, and you can see that, okay, a small pouch, a balloon-like pouch that is, embedded together with the liver is called the gallbladder. So production of bile is done by the liver, but all this bile is then sent to the gallbladder for storage. Not just for storage, but the gallbladder increases the concentration of bile up to 5-folds. And that is an extremely important process. That means it basically makes the bile 5 times more powerful. So when somebody is in a situation where they need to remove the gallbladder, now that particular advantage is gone. The effect of bile is now limited because it cannot be concentrated. That's number one. Number two is instead of being stored, the bile now is moving continuously from the liver straight to the first part of the small intestine, because why? No more gallbladder. That's why we must always try to protect our gallbladder, even in conditions where, medically they say that you have to remove your gallbladder. Please get a second opinion. Based on my own experience, out of 100 cases that has been advised to remove the gallbladder, 80 cases you can save the gallbladder. Because the medical protocol sometimes is too rigid, too rigid, you know. So, and I don't want to use the word, but sometimes it just has become too much of a business, where, certain things that can be done to help and all these kind of things, but, protocols and all that, I don't want to get into all that, but it's a bit messy and all that. So we have to take personal accountability. Doctors are very important because they are trained to treat, and all these kind of things, but in certain instances and all that, I always advise you, please get second opinion. There are so many cases of gallbladder problems that has, that people were advised to remove and all that has been saved. And that is very, very important. So, and So and it depends. I'm not saying that every single gallbladder problem can be saved. Certain things no choice. But you can do. We should do whatever possible to save the gallbladder. Because why the gallbladder is not about just, sometimes doctors will say that no problem, I can remove the gallbladder. You can survive without a gallbladder. Of course, you can survive without a gallbladder. You can. But you are now limited to so many different things. Your digestive system will never be the same again. Okay. And you're going to end up with complications after complications. And it's only going to get worse as you get older. All that. So very important. And this bile will go into the first part of the small intestine. On that. Okay. So generally, one of the challenges that the liver will face is when the biliary ducts get obstructed, when there are formation of sludge that eventually becomes crystals that eventually become gallstones. So this morning, remember, we were talking about liver function. I was talking to you about a few different parameters. I was talking to you about bilirubin. I was talking to you about GGT. Then I was talking to you about ALT, AST, ALP, all the different liver enzymes and all that. How some of it can get elevated. And one of the common reasons that it gets elevated is when there is some type of obstruction happening in the liver. In Chinese medicine, it's a very common term to hear. Sometimes the senseis and the practitioners in Chinese medicine say that the liver is sandy liver, sludgy liver, and all that. Basically, is this lah, these issues lah. That's how it starts lah, sludge, and all these kind of things. And the reason why that is happening is the ability of the liver to produce good quality bile starts to get compromised. Understand? Because good quality bile comes from bile acids, bile salts, a combination of many different factors. And that process is so important also to regulate cholesterol in the body. Because any excess cholesterol, how does the body get rid of it? Through bile. So if you have an obstruction, are you going to also have a lipid problem? You're definitely going to have a lipid problem. So many people, they try to treat the lipid problem with medication and all that, but the underlying cause of their liver health, they don't look at it because they're all under different expertise. A metabolic specialist is looking at cholesterol, a physician is looking at cholesterol, and then what is this, to look at the liver and all these kind of things, you need a liver specialist, a hepato specialist, and all this. So different expertise and all that. So nobody looks at it in totality. But the moment you have problem with gallstones, cholesterol, and all these kind of things, one of the main areas to also look at is look at how your body is regulating the flow of bile. And if you also have some symptoms like constipation, bloating, you're sensitive to certain food and all that. Oh, now there's a possibility that, your bile production efficiency might not be so good. And that is creating a whole set of problems everywhere. Very, very important. So, and it's a very, very important, in fact, it's one of the top three ways the body removes toxin. Bile flow, top three, bile flow, all that. Very, very important. So, and of course, when there are indications of sludge stones, ultrasound is very good for this lah. You don't need to go and do CT scan, all these kind of things to for as a in fact, I advise people to do abdomen, a full abdomen ultrasound, at least one after the age of 30, okay, or if you have any prevailing symptoms if you're younger, after the age of 30, at least once every 2 years. Go and do a full abdomen. Not expensive. Even in the medical centers and clinics, all that, maybe 100 plus, all that, not expensive. But do a full abdomen ultrasound. And it's very good to detect problems, especially related to gallstone, certain issues with the digestive tract, gallbladder. Can detect. So all this, So, and a lot of doctors are trained, especially in clinics that already have an ultrasound machine, they can detect this. And this is good. Okay, so see in this case, it is showing some so indication of stones. Okay, indication of You see the wall thickness here? For those who understand, you can see the moment I look at it, I say, oh, this the gallbladder wall looks thicker than normal. So that means I know got obstruction. That means the muscles in the gallbladder has been working very hard to pump out the bile. Then the muscle, just like you working out, lah. Just like you working out, your muscles get bigger, right? So that's why the wall of the gallbladder has got thicker. This also can happen in the bladder. If you got obstruction, bladder wall gets thicker. All that. So thicker doesn't mean, wow, good lah. A lot of muscle and all that. No, it shouldn't be like that. So these are indications. All that. Another one. You can see, wow, see stones accumulating. So where the stones are located also very important. If it's at the neck, where it's very close to the duct that can go out, then now it can become a problem. The size of the stones. And another very important, popular process out there is, sometimes you see, certain groups and all that, they'll say, okay, we are having a liver detox camp, liver detox camp. It's a 4-day camp, 1 week camp. You come, they go through certain procedures and all that. They say they want to help to clean the liver and the gallbladder and all that. Noble intention, but can get very, very complicated and can create a lot of complications. In the last 20 years, I've seen so many to a level of acute problems where because the process itself, the idea is this, to slowly break down the sludge and all that, then to force it out so that you can pass it out when you have a bowel movement. Seems very straightforward, okay, in theory. But what happens if the gallstone is too big and it gets stuck in the duct, which happened to many people? That's why the intention is good, but the protocol to do it must be very careful. So you must know the size of the gallstones, you must know the number, and all these kind of things. Then you must have a blood test report to see how well the liver is functioning, all that. And the process itself cannot be rushed. Cannot be rushed. I've done this for many different groups of people, all this kind of teaching them how to do this, and all that. But it's a process that takes, and for every single one of them, one of the requirements is not just a blood test, but an ultrasound. If there's no ultrasound, sorry, you cannot do it properly. You have to know because everybody different on that. Very, very important. There are many things that that can require the consumption of olive oil, Epsom salt. I think some people might be familiar with some of these procedures and all this, using apple juice and all this kind of, yeah. In theory, yes, all that has got certain properties that will help the dislodging process. But to do it proper, you need to understand how your physiology is working, what is happening within your system. Understand? If not, you can make matters really bad, and create a problem where the gallbladder gets into a state of chronic acute inflammation and it can rupture. Okay, and you can push the obstruction to another part of the duct that can cause a massive backflow that affects the pancreatic enzyme, destroying the pancreas itself and causing a backflow back to the liver. And all these are complications that we have seen. So must be very careful. Some people go through a detox process and come back after 2-3 weeks and say, I'm feeling worse than what I was, and all these kind of things. And then with other investigators, yeah, you have just moved problem A and accumulated it with B and just moved it to another part of the body. And you cannot do these detox processes that are very common in the market if you have leaky gut syndrome. Cannot. You're going to transfer toxin from one part to another part. You know what is leaky gut, right? We looked at it in the digestive system, where your tight junctions in the small intestine, the tight gates, they're no more tight, they're loose gates. So you got loose gates in your small intestine, and you're transferring toxins from your liver into your gut, into your intestine. So it's just going to transfer that, get back into blood circulation, and now transfer all the way back to your brain. Not too smart. So this is where you have to be very careful. I know all these detox programs and all that are very, very popular, especially among the network marketing MLM community. I know. And many of the leaders, many of the this and all these kind of things, okay, some of them because they have been exposed to some education and all these kind of things, so many of them do come and consult me and my team and all these kind of things, how to do it properly and all that. They are becoming more and more careful, but there are still a lot of issues out there. Recently in Jakarta, there was a group, part of another very big organization and all that, that had this 2 week scam, and all this kind of thing. Okay, and did and started creating problems on that because why they didn't understand the underlying issues that people were facing. So many of this, these programs of detoxifying, trying to help the body to rebalance, they are very good. They are very good, but they must be done with knowledge and understanding. Not everybody is the same. We are unique. Well, I keep telling you all that we are unique. So we must trust science and we must use protocols that are not dangerous, okay, and allow the body time to do the leaching process. Leaching means slowly getting rid. You cannot rush, you cannot rush the body. Accumulation might have taken 10 years. And some people say, I want to get rid of all this in 2, 3 days. How to do that? It's just like weight management. If you're 20 kilos overweight, and it took 10 years for you to accumulate the 20 kilos, and then you'd come and tell me, I want to get rid of all this extra weight in 2 months. This program says I can lose 10 kilos a month. So 2 months, 20 kilos. No, that's not how it works. So you have to be very cautious on that. Okay, so you can see this. Okay, so certain investigation protocols are very, very important. Okay, how it's done, and it must done in a proper way. Okay, we can see. Okay, so the pancreas here, you see this pancreas, and I was telling you, because of problems with gallstone and all these kind of things. Okay, you see, maybe not so clear on this image here. You can see here this part here, gallstone blocks. This is the orifice. Orifice here. Okay, common duct. The common duct, that means is shared by the pancreas and the biliary duct. Okay, and now it happened that right at the junction here, right at the orifice here, there's a big gallstone that blocked it. This is not a story. This has happened to many people. You know what's going to happen now in situation like this? You see the pancreas here, which is producing a lot of enzymes. Okay, the pancreas is a gland that secretes digestive enzymes into the small intestine. When a gallstone blocks the duct, the enzymes become trapped in the pancreas where they activate and begin digesting the gland. The enzymes that the pancreas is producing is now digesting the pancreas. Okay? And because of this, some people have become a diabetic because the beta cells in the pancreas got destroyed and now the pancreas cannot produce insulin. One of it, lah. You know. So, all these are complications. So in the more advanced program, sometimes I ask, okay, what can cause somebody to become a diabetic? Most people will just talk about blood sugar. Yeah, that's a common way, right? And all that. Some of them have done enough research. They say that even gallstone issues, and all these kind, obstruction issues and all that can also cause a lot of backflow problem for the pancreas, causing a problem of insulin production, that can actually trigger problems related to diabetes. Yes, for some of y'all, this is the first time you probably would have heard it, but these are real situations, so I have to be very careful. Is it important to cleanse the liver? Yes, absolutely, but you cannot rush it. Understand or not? So you have to allow the body time to slowly do the leaching process. That, on this, so remember that. Okay, so the next system is the skin. Okay, the largest detox organ supports 10% of body detox generally. Okay, skin considered a regulator of body temperature, helps us discharge internal waste via secretion of sweat. Okay, so it's not just secretion of sweat, but the skin works hand in hand with the body's lymphatic system. You know, that's why to most people I say this, even if you don't understand the science too much, okay, it's a good idea that many people love to have a hot shower. They say it relaxes the muscle, you feel better, soothing, and all that great. Okay. But as you're having that long shower and all these kind of things, okay, what you can do is also towards the end of the shower, so be prepared a little bit, slowly start reducing the temperature of the water. That means make it cooler and cooler and cooler until you're just running on cold water, tap water. Some people say, macam mana lah sejuk sangat. All that. When you take the body from a warm state and start cooling it down, you are actually engaging the body's lymphatic system to interact with your skin to detoxify. You know, there's a difference, and some of you all probably would have heard this, you see like the Japanese, certain part of China, the Eastern culture and all that, even certain parts of Europe and all, they pay a lot of attention in the baths, the way they bathe. And some people say, wow, there's also something called the bath house. They go there, the different pools. And then, they say, wow, some of the baths are cold water, some of the baths are very warm. Then they also have liquid hot rooms, which is basically the steam rooms. Then they also have hot dry rooms, which is a sauna and all these kind of things. And how they go through from one section to the other section basically is interacting the lymphatic system with your skin for a detoxification end results. And it works. And people who go through all that, following the proper protocols and all this, okay, they feel good, they feel lighter and all this. Because why? You have just got rid of a lot of toxins from the body, elimination improvement, But you can also do it at home, okay? The last minute of your shower, you try to go on just plain tap water. Some people say, wah, sejuk sangat, so cold lah. No lah, Malaysian waters cannot be so cold lah. If you go to some of the cooler country, that's different lah. Because actually, when we talk cool water, we're talking 15 degrees here. It's like your ice water. So in Malaysia, we don't say, wow, and all that. That's why, in some of the detox programs and all that, wow, go ice baths and all that. Why they do ice baths and all this? That's a reason for that. But just, all you need to do is, what is this? Fluctuate. We call it thermal regulation and all this kind of, and it activates the body's detox process. All that, and one of the things that you also do when you bring down the body's temperature is you activate something that is very silent in your body called brown fat. Brown fat. White fat is your accumulation of conversion of glucose to body fat lah. You know what is brown fat? Brown fat activates white fat for energy burn. And one of the ways of activating brown fat is to bring down temperature. Understand that? Bring down temperature, one of the ways of activating. That's why babies are born with a high amount of brown fat, because why? They're very sensitive to thermal regulation. So the brown fat in babies is meant to keep them warm, even if the surrounding temperature drops and all that. But as we cross the 2-year age and all that, the presence of brown fat in our body, activity-wise, okay, starts to decline. And especially in today's lifestyle where we tend to accumulate so much of body fat, white fat and all that, for most people, the brown fat is just sleeping on it. But it's still there. It's one of the things that activates the burn. And one of it, that the other thing that also does it is if you do something related to intermittent fasting properly. We will talk about it. I talk more about it in the consultant program. Let's see. I will spend a bit of time just talking about the importance of fasting related to a process called autophagy. And autophagy is a very important part of detox, allowing the body to cleanse itself. Autophagy, AUTOPHAGY, another term that you can do a little bit of research. Allow it to do that. Allow the body to go through an autophagy process where the body now starts to burn body fat as a source of energy. Understand? A lot of things can happen if you do things right. So that. Okay, so, and you can see the skin. We have gone through this in the body systems. We can see layers. So we look at the epidermis and the dermis. A lot of activity happens in the dermis. But the epidermis, basically melanocytes are there. Okay, and the higher it gets in the hierarchy of the skin, when you look at the skin itself, okay, as the top layer of the skin, the one that you're touching is basically dead. It's basically dead. That's why sometimes we say everything that you see on the surface of the body is all dead. We keep shedding off all the dead skin because why? It starts from the bottom and it starts moving upwards. All that. So we're shedding a lot of skin every day. A lot of house dust and all that is actually sometimes a lot of dead skin and all that. Okay, so our sweat contains salt and a small amount of other substance such as ammonia, other toxins, including heavy metal. Remember just now I was telling you, one of the very efficient ways of getting rid of heavy metals is in the process of sweating. So that's why all these popular traditional baths and all that, where there is all these kind of things. One of it, they probably didn't understand the science too much, lah. But today, as we start getting into details of actually what is happening out there, wow, they were already doing heavy metal detoxification with all these different traditional baths that they have and all that, and all this. Okay. In total, there are over 2 million tightly coiled sweat glands in an adult human body. Just like you have 2 million nephrons, a million each in each kidney, filters, sweat glands. Sad thing for many people, sometimes a lot of their sweat glands all plugged up, clogged up, all the pores are blocked. Because why? Lack of activity and all this. You must use it. Use it or lose it. Kalau tak guna, okay, you will destroy it. If you don't use it, you destroy it. Okay, and careful. That's why one of the things that I've been noticing a lot in the last 10 years is the usage of sweat stick, underarm deodorants. Use the good ones. The ones that are natural salt ones are good. And if you're going to use something and all that, make sure it doesn't what is this, block the pores and all that. Please check. Quality comes with a price lah. Almost every cheap stuff out there and all these kind of things will create a lot of secondary issues lah. Generally. Okay, so hold on. Yeah. Does hair removal affect our skin structure? There's a reason why you have hair. Sometimes we call it cilia on the skin and all that. It's also meant for thermal regulation. It's also meant to support the barrier system and all that. Okay. And today, sometimes, it gets very popular, especially for appearance purposes and all these kind of things. People go for laser. They go for, what is this? Of course, the most basic way of doing it is shaving it, and then they go for all these different what is this, patch removals and all these kind of thing using certain uh, yes, removing of hair has an effect on the ability skin health. That is in general on that, but how much of impact also depends on what else you're doing on that. It's good, especially females, but also a lot of males are also starting to do it, all these kind of things. There's a reason why it's there, and all that. Okay, and you have to also be careful. Some people are going for permanent hair removal, basically just destroying the follicles. So sometimes the oops will come later in life. The oops will come later in life. So all this. So you have to be a bit cautious, and all that. Of course, you don't also want to have a situation where, especially some females are a bit sensitive. So, wow, got too much of body hair, too much, way too much, and all this kind of thing. So some say, okay, but I'll just stick to the basic. I will just use a razor, and all that. And all that, which has the minimal long-term effect, or complications. But other procedures, be careful. Now, laser removal getting very popular, very popular because it's like permanent removal. Uh, be a bit cautious on that. Okay. So, and then you have this thing where, okay, exposure to heat brings the blood to the surface. This is what happens. When your body is exposed to heat, blood comes closer to the skin because that's one of the ways thermal regulation works like that, creating a red look. That's why we know if you're exposed to heat, you tend to look redder. Of course, if you have dark complexion, actually cannot see too much lah, and all this. But if you're fair and all this kind of thing, you can say, wow, the person face. That's why some people who even take alcohol and all that after 1, 2 glasses and all that, wow, very red surface. The blood is very close to the surface of the skin. Okay, so while cold drives it deeper into the body. Why? Why deeper into the body? To conserve heat. That's how it works. Temperature variation, cold and hot, promotes movement of lymph to the skin surface. When you do go on a cyclic kind of interchange, sweating removes toxin through sweat gland. This is the interaction between your lymphatics and your skin. That's how they work hand in hand. Very important. Okay, so the lymphatic system, which is part, anywhere you see blood vessel, you will see a lymphatic vessel, generally. Okay, so, and this is where, that's why I was telling you, okay, you see all the lymphatic vessels and all these kind of things, okay, and finally, where does all the lymph go? Lymph is a bit greenish yellowish fluid, okay, and it's basically removing tissue fluids, toxins, and all these kind of things. Finally, it's draining it into the body circulatory system, at the thoracic cavity, that means in our chest, is being drained into the circulatory system, but it goes to the liver and all that, and the liver will combine all this, repackage it, and send out these toxins through bile. You see how they work with one another? That's why we need to make sure that all systems are working well, because it's a production line. If one system not working well, what? The whole system can get congested. Yeah, all that. Okay, so cleansing of tissue fluid. Some of the main functions of lymphatic. Removal of impurities such as carbon particles, cancer cells, pathogenic organisms, and dead blood cells. So our lymphatic system does wonders. Lymphatic system is part of the immune system. Okay, manufacture of lymphocytes. So do you all remember what is lymphocytes? T cell and B cell. Your T cell is probably your strongest and most powerful immune cell. This is the super soldier, supercharged soldier. Goes after all the pathogenic microbes, goes after cancer, anything that harms the body, your T cell is there. Okay, B cell antibodies, and they're made in the lymphatic system. Okay, so manufacture of lymphocytes, which make up 20 to 25% of the whole white blood cell population. Understand? So if you have an infection and all that, it can go up responding to the threat to the body. Okay, so the detox function of the lymphatics, production of antibodies, which are chemical substances that aid in combating infection. So when the body combats infection, it's detox, without the benefit of the heart, which pumps blood. Now, this is something very, very important. This is something very, very important. Your blood circulation has a pump, the heart. What about your lymphatic circulation? Lymphatic circulation got pump or not? No physical pump, but it depends on the muscles of the body. Okay, and this is where the muscles in your legs become so important. So when we say do a knee lift, okay, put a little bit more pressure on your soleus muscle, which is your calf muscle, and all that is so important. Muscular movement is what drives the lymphatic system. The body has got a little bit of a standard, uh, what we call process that make sure that your skeletal muscle, at least one of your skeletal muscle is working all the time, which is your diaphragm. Your diaphragm that helps breathing is a skeletal muscle. Okay, so that also helps in terms of lymphatic circulation, but it's not enough. The most critical is the one in your legs. That's why we always say aging starts from the leg up. So the muscles in your leg are extremely important to make sure that you get good circulation. What are the three fundamentals of prevention? Keep your oxidative stress low. Free radicals, keep it low. Not possible for zero. Keep your inflammation low. Keep your inflammation low. Okay, and make sure your circulation is good. These are the three fundamentals. Anytime you want to talk about health prevention, if you talk about these three, you can never be wrong. So in the blood investigation this morning, I forgot to mention one thing. One of the oxidative markers that we test, okay, is something called superoxide dismutase, SOD. SOD is one of the most, it is the most powerful enzymatic antioxidant in the body. SOD. Last time it was so expensive to test, so difficult to test. Okay, but technology has got better and better. Today, for my frontline wellness screening and all that, I test the person's SOD level, and that will tell me what is happening in terms of the antioxidant defense of the body. But this, see, this is an amazing thing. Sometimes, today we are at a level where we can do so much of preventive investigation, to find problems way before it happens. And then we can do a lot of things to reverse it so that you don't end up with an organ problem. You have a lot of controls in hand today based on what science can do. Okay, so without the benefit of the heart which pumps blood, lymph flow can be stimulated via movement, muscle. Okay, it also can be stimulated with temperature change. What we are talking about the baths just now, cold, hot, intestinal movement, breathing activity, and massage. There are some very good massage therapists that are very well trained. Majority are not trained. Majority are not trained. But those who are trained to do proper lymphatic massages, because the direction of the massage, then manipulating the lymph nodes and all that, they're extremely important. Because if you do it wrongly, you can congest the system, congested. That's why sometimes some people will say, yeah, I went for this massage therapy and all these kind of things, but after that, for the next 1 week, I felt horrible. Body aches, headaches, all kind of disorders. Of course, I don't tell them offhand, but I already know already. Whoever did the procedure for you and I probably was doing it wrong. And then they will come up with this justification that say probably it's a healing crisis. When you do something, probably it'll get bad first and then only it'll get better. I say, okay, lah. And all that. So, but this is facts. Those who really know how to do it, I know when I spent some time in India, and in some other places, in Taiwan, in China, I looked at it, how the certain traditional therapists, they do their work and all this, and they're very knowledgeable. They have these masters that actually teach them, not just, direction, but the amount of pressure that they apply, where to apply more pressure, the timing, and many things which we neglect to understand. So all that, so all this can do, and it helps. Okay, so lymph massage is designed to move tissue fluid toward the nodes for drainage. Very important directional support. Very, very important. And if you don't understand how your lymph nodes, where your lymph nodes are situated, how lymph flow and all that, wow, you can do damage, I'll tell you, on that. Okay, so the next one is your gastrointestinal tract, where we say that all diseases start from the gut. Okay, so let's do a little bit of review. Okay, digestion starts from the mouth, right? Okay, and then it goes through the 30 feet alimentary canal, the digestive tube. Okay, from mouth through your esophagus to your stomach to your small intestine, which is broken up to 3 different segments. Your duodenum, your jejunum, your ileum. Okay, then through your iliac valve. Okay, it moves into the your large intestine, also called the colon. Okay, so from your ascending colon, your transverse colon, and your descending colon, then it gets into the sigmoid, S colon, rectum, and finally the anus. 30 feet of tube that is supported by accessory digestive organs. What are they? The salivary gland, the 3 different types of salivary gland. Okay, and then you have the liver, then you have the gallbladder, and you have the pancreas. Sometimes you can also include an accessory organ called the teeth, gigi, teeth and all that. So all that. So, so all this put together supports the digestive system. Easier said than done, because each section of the digestive tract, okay, is a complexity of its own. You already have control up to the level of swallowing. After swallowing, everything runs in an automatic process. But that first part of digestion, which happens in the mouth, is probably the most critical thing, okay, that you have control in actually deciding the end results of digestion. So take your time to chew your food properly. Very, very important. Okay, it's not just about mingling the saliva with your food. Okay, that is very, very important. But for some type of food, for some type of nutrients, the nutrients need to interact with the flora in your mouth. Flora, the microbes in your mouth needs to interact with the nutrients for proper absorption later on in the small intestine. That process is done in the mouth. Okay, of course, it is much, much more advanced. Okay, and all these kind of things, but I think it's important enough that I let you know. Okay, chewing is not just about mixing saliva and enzymes with food, not just about mastication, breaking down the food to smaller chunks and all that. But the microbes in our mouth, the flora in our mouth is also very important. It plays a very important role in breaking down some nutrients in the mouth so that proper absorption can happen in the small intestine. Some of y'all can go and do a little bit more research on that area. Why are the microbes in the mouth so important for some nutrient absorption? Understand? And this is where it gets a little bit complicated when you talk about dental hygiene. Just to let you know, I'm starting you off to get you to start thinking. You know, there are many people who are addicted to using a lot of mouth. How many of y'all use mouthwash? Mouthwash. Example is a mouthwash that starts with L. Mouthwash ada. L. What is the famous L mouthwash? Starts with L. There's so many in the market, different type. Oh yeah, so all of y'all are mentioning it already. So all that, and many people are doing this and all these kind of things. Okay, I want you to go and do a little bit of research, lah. You know, so brushing our teeth, dental floss, all these kind of things, you know, all that are very important. But just do a bit of research and see that how does mouthwash impact the flora balance in your mouth? And what happens to somebody that is diligently using mouthwash a couple of times a day? And I know people who are doing that. Okay. The objective of your research, and it has also something to do with your assignment. So I'm giving you some clues now for the out of box points. Okay. If the flora in your mouth gets affected, does it affect your digestion or not? You know, dental hygiene is very important. But what happens when you overdo things and start to kill a lot of things that is actually providing benefit? What happens if you constantly use a sanitizer for every single thing? Some people, okay, during the time of COVID, people became compulsive. Every 5 minutes, sanitizer. Every 5 minutes, putting, all these kind of things. Do you all know that we have friendly microbes on our skin? Some mothers, every hour they'll be cleaning their babies using all these different sanitizer wipes and all these kind of things because they want to keep the baby nice and clean. Actually, they're doing more harm than good. Okay, so, okay, where they are, Google AI gives this answer. Mouthwash drastically disrupts the oral microbiome by non-selectively killing both harmful and beneficial bacteria. Okay, and all that. Okay, yeah. So you see, you can already see the answer there. All that. Okay, and how many of y'all knew about this? I think not many. Okay, so I'm not saying mouthwash is bad. I'm not saying that. Okay, but I'm saying use it with caution because sometimes you might be doing more bad than good. Understand? If you have a problem, a dental problem and all that, where you need to control the microbiome in the mouth and all that, okay, all that, but other than that, don't disrupt the balance too much. It's the same thing as you taking antibiotics that disrupts your gut microbiome. I'm just telling you that the mouthwash is actually doing the same thing in your mouth. Okay, so nitric oxide, that is the one that I was looking for. Somebody finally mentioned it. Yep, nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is something so important for your vessel health, blood vessel, your artery health. That's what keeps your vessel healthy. Okay, certain components of things of amino acid, L-citrulline, L-arginine. The breakdown of these nutrients start in the mouth, triggered by the friendly microbes in your mouth. And that helps your blood vessel to maintain good health. So that is a very, very important point there. Okay. So, so Daniel, very good point. You know, so your assignment now, remember I told you out of the box, there are a lot of clues there. All that, so sometimes we do things that we believe is good for us, but actually it is doing more harm than good. So cautious on that. There are other ways that you can maintain good dental hygiene. The microbiome in the mouth is so important, extremely important, not just for dental hygiene, but also for breakdown of nutrients. Jangan gosok gigi dulu, minum air. Yeah, that is another school of thought, all that. There are people who, morning and all that, because why there's also a lot of accumulation of B vitamins in your mouth and all these kind of things. So why waste it? Minum air dulu. After that, only going to talk about brushing your teeth and all these kind of things. Some people without brushing teeth, they will go and have their first drink of water plus a little bit of apple cider vinegar and all that, so all this, so it gets very interesting when you start getting into the science of these theories lah. All that. Okay, so GI tract detox support, first line of defense, saliva, mucus, acid, enzyme. Wow, our whole digestive tract, especially our upper digestive tract, is filled with all this. You know why? 7 times a day we eat. Of course, la, entry point. And today metropolitan cities and all cities, 80% of the food is outside food. Oh my God, some people 90%, some people 100%. Huh? How? Entry point, input, So that's why by default, our system also got all these different gates to control. See, all these, each one. Okay. Then it goes through peristalsis so that you got no stagnation. Keep pushing it down from entry to exit. Bowel movement, passing motion, prevent constipation, so that there's no accumulation. And this word, okay, called auto intoxication, must be kept under control. Okay, because when waste is in the second part of your large intestine, which is second half of your ascending colon and descending colon, if it spends too much time there, it's going to start cell poisoning. Okay, and that's the area also that is most focused for colorectal cancer areas. Okay, and then you got dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is an imbalance of flora in your gut. Okay, so many people have this leaky gut, loss of absorption control. The tight junctions in the second and third part of your small intestine, they're no more tight, they're all very loose. So when they're loose, partially digested food, microbes, toxins, all can go in. And when they go in, where they're going? Into your bloodstream. And the first organ that they will go to is where? Liver. And the liver is under tremendous stress now. Continuously being bombarded by toxins. So all these, are basically, what we call conditions that can cause a great imbalance to the system. Okay, irritable bowel disease, autoimmune problems. Okay, I'll tell you this, and I can tell you this based on 20 years of data and experience of dealing with so many people, thousands and thousands of people. Okay, I'll tell you 90% of autoimmune conditions origins from the gut. And it's getting higher and higher and higher every year. Because of imbalances in the gut. That's where it starts. And one of the places that causes this is your leaky gut conditions. Leaky gut, to prevent leaky gut, you need to have a balanced microbiome. Very important. So these are areas, so that's why when you look at your assignment and you look at this, okay, so you tend to use, all these are critical points, how you can improve, what can you do proactively. There are a lot of things you can do. Okay, so sometime I tell you this. Okay, so if I ask you this question now, what do you think is more important? Okay, Is the probiotic more important or is the prebiotic more important? Wow, many people are going to start thinking heavily on this now. The prebiotic is the food to your microbiome. Huh? Which one more important? The prebiotic or a probiotic? Which one? I already see two answers there, prebiotic. My personal thoughts, definitely prebiotic. Lah. Because I always prefer to make the environment, the soil fertile. Keep the soil fertile. When I say the soil fertile, the lining of your colon and all this kind, keep it fertile, keep it full, okay, of supportive for good growth. So the prebiotic, especially when the diversity is high with all different types of fiber, both soluble, insoluble, they provide the perfect environment for your resident flora, which you will have at least between 400 to 500 species to flourish and to have continuity. The one that you take in your probiotics and all these kind of things, sometimes it's known as transient. Some of it, yes, they come, they provide benefits and all these kind of things, but a lot of it also might just be passing through your system. But what you need to do is really take care of your resident flora. And some of your resident flora is also part of what you're taking in your probiotics. Some are lactobacillus family, bifido, all that. So all this, but without the environment within the colon being healthy, you can just keep pumping it with more and more probiotics and all these kind of things. It's not going to be sustainable, So that's why, you know, your prebiotics are very important. Okay, because why? The end process when they produce the postbiotics, especially so the short chain fatty acid. And among the short chain fatty acid, the butyrate is extremely important, not just for detox, but to prevent diseases of the gut. You want to prevent colon cancer, make sure that butyrate production is adequate. Understand? Butyrate is part of the short chain fatty acid, SCFA. Yeah, all that. And for that to happen, make sure that you have a diversity of types of fiber, diversity. That's why today, even in a lot of probiotics and all that, they always combine with prebiotics because they know people are not taking enough and that will create a problem. But there's only so much that they can put into a capsule, and all that. Okay, so that's why your diet is very important and diversity is important. On that. Okay. So, GI tract cleanse. The GI tract cleanse is intended to cleanse and heal the stomach. This includes removing growths, healing tissue problems, and many people go through a lot of these detox programs, restoring the shape and tone of intestines to their natural form, restoring the environment. Okay, prevention of constipation is one of the primary goals, lah. And all that. Okay, so eventually, xenobiotics is basically a lot of toxins that come from drugs, hormones, all that. So, and then a lot of mucus buildup. A lot of this sometimes can, so certain type of food. Some people are very sensitive to dairy products. Some people are very sensitive to wheat that can create a lot of mucus plaques in your digestive tract. Okay, so you see all this? You see this photo here? Some people say, hey, apa ni? Plastic. All these are ones from people's colon, from the lining of the intestine and all this. When they go to all this is what is excreted. And some of this has been in their system for more than 5 years. So all that, so that's why, and this is what I meant by sometime accumulation across a period. And you eat a lot of good food, you eat a lot of good supplements and all that, but your gut lining, your intestinal lining, and all this kind of thing is coated by all these intestinal plaques. So absorption is very poor. So when you do a blood test, low iron, low electrolytes, low vitamins, and all that. But prof, I take all the best supplements out there. How come are all low? Can I say, yeah, you're taking, but can the body absorb or not? Then when we do further investigations, we find all kind of complications in the gut because they already have symptoms. But I take all these, I still have problems with constipation. After meal about 20 minutes to 30 minutes after meal, I have this gnawing pain on the right side, just below my last rib and all that. Yeah, I can tell you already. You're already having obstruction of your biliary ducts and all these kind of things. So all this, they're behaving and all that, and then what they're doing is trying to compensate by taking a lot of good supplements, dietary products and all that. No. Sometimes you have to go through a reset program. Sometimes you have to go through something that does the cleansing. That's why fasting is very good. But fasting alone is not enough. How you do it. So maybe tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about this fasting protocols and all that. All this. Okay. The process of autophagy and all that. Okay. See, polyps, colon polyps that eventually become cancerous. Polyps got two types. One, it looks like a mushroom. The other one is flat. So one is like an oyster mushroom, flat. The other one is like a button mushroom. Which one more dangerous? The flat one is more dangerous. Okay, all that. Okay, so how to clean out GI tract. Tomorrow we got class over it. We talk about it. We do. What can you do? And of course, sometimes your GI tract's best friend, okay, is just not to put anything inside. That's why the fasting process. And all that. Allow it time to this one, okay, and then taking things that are having what we call a diversity of different types of fiber and all these kind of things, okay. Give it time. When you start putting in all the processed food and all the heavy proteins in and all that at one go and all these kind of things, things become complicated. Once in a while, allow the digestive tract to have its own personal time. Give it a bit of time with a lot of nice healthy fluids, okay, and then with certain types of fiber and all this kind, allow it to cleanse itself. Right. Which fasting to do? Tomorrow we talk about it. So you got intermittent fasting, you got ketogenic support with ketogenic diets and all these kind of things. Okay. Timing, the 16:8, sometimes the 20/4 and all these kind of things. Okay. So tomorrow we'll bring out these questions. Okay. So let's talk a little bit tomorrow, okay, about this, because tomorrow I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, let me see. Yeah, because tomorrow I wanted to add a little bit of a value added topic. That means these are topics not in the main structure. Okay, so one of it is I wanted to talk about, because one of it is gut microbiome. So gut microbiome, when we talk about it, we'll talk about this fasting one. There's an additional topic. That's actually the consultant level topic, but I've summarized a little bit of important points for you all. Tomorrow we'll do that for this. Okay, so intermittent fasting is good provided you do it the right way, and it's not something that you do continuously. Okay, so people are making mistakes here. What do you do? Do you know the advantage of good black coffee? Black coffee, not kopi campuran, not the latte and all this that you go out there with all the different types of, is it low sugar, mid sugar, what type of sugar? No, no, no. I'm talking about good quality coffee beans, whether it's Arabica, Robusta, and all that, what the other one, Lebrica, all that. Okay. Good quality coffee beans, especially the Arabica beans, okay, that is taken black. And sometimes you can add in something called medium chain triglycerides, MCTC8. How it really triggers the liver to go in a bit of a hyper mode. And one of it that it'll do is suddenly you notice the bile production increase. That's why somebody asked how to increase bile. That way can increase bile. Definitely can increase. Apple cider vinegar can increase bile. Very good on that. Or not just limited to apple cider vinegar. Acetic acid, generally natural vinegars, does a wonderful job. That's why you look at a lot of traditional cooking and all that. You look at a lot of Chinese cooking and all these kind of things. The usage of wine, vinegars and all these kind of things. Even in certain food, they eat the food with vinegars and all these kind of things. Okay, there's a reason for that. Not simply for taste alone. No. And there's also in a lot of cuisines around the world, vinegar is used extensively. But apple cider vinegar has got an advantage over other vinegars because it's not just about the acetic acid, but there's also another acid in apple cider vinegar called the malic acid. And the malic acid is very good to remove sludge in the liver. Remove sludge. The acetic acid will trigger production of bile. The malic acid will desludge. So when you got more bile and desludging happening, cleansing is happening. But it's not overnight, lah. These are things that you need some kind of consistency doing. Some people ask me, can I take more vinegar? Cannot. You take more vinegar, you'll kill your esophagus. Cannot. It doesn't mean you have to do it slowly. That's why I use the leaching process. Leaching means it's just that you take something something that you're slowly leaching in day by day, slowly. You cannot do it too fast, dangerous. You'll transfer it to another part of the body, very dangerous. All that. So tomorrow we talk more about it. So you look at all this. Some people suffer from this condition. You see this one? Normal intestine. What is all this finger-like projection called? This finger-like projection is called what? Who can answer me? What is this? This is in your jejunum. Villi. And on top of this villi, there's also some fingers on the villi itself. What is it called? On the finger itself, got some villi. So all these finger, some mini fingers here. What is that called? Microvilli. Microvilli. Okay. You see, this person got nice, healthy villi, right? But this person, what happened to all the villi? All got chopped off. What's the disease? An autoimmune disease called celiac disease. This person on the left can eat just normal food, the body will absorb 90%. Very good. The person on the right eat all the healthiest food, take all the best supplements, body absorb less than 20%. Why? Because of the autoimmune condition called celiac disease. Okay, how many percent of people actually suffer directly or indirectly these conditions? Between 12 to 15%. Different extent of the disease. Some really bad, some midway, some minor. All that. The body's own immune system destroying. And then the most important question, some people ask me, Prof, if I got celiac disease, my villi all gone already, can heal or not? Can my villi grow back or not? See, the good news is this. Yes, the villi can grow back. Understand? But you must make the environment of your small intestine conducive to support the villi growth. Can heal. But first we need to identify lah. That's why, investigation is not simply buat buta-buta just to see general thing. No. We can really identify whether this exists in your body or not. Especially for people who have always been having digestive issues, and all that. This could be one of the reasons. Celiac disease. Okay, so you can see a healthy colon, ulcerative. Ulcerative means inflammation caused by autoimmune condition, Crohn's disease. Very, very painful condition. Always the digestive tract is like always burning, always like going to explode, like this, Crohn's disease. And of course, on a worst case scenario, colon cancer, which is actually becoming the most common cancer. So you can see imbalance in the gut creates lots of issues. Okay. But the good news is this, it doesn't require extensive preventive measures or very detailed preventive measures that very difficult to do. No, a lot of it is actually 80% is doing the basics right. Okay. So tomorrow, please, the moment we start tomorrow's whole day lectures is about the microbiome, gut health, all that. And then, but tomorrow's one is actually extracted from the consultant program. But it's important that we talk about fasting a little bit, fasting a bit, okay? And then how to actually have a balanced digestive tract. We do all that first, then we start talking a little bit about stress management and all that. Okay. So kidneys. So kidneys is another very important elimination organ, right? Okay. So we have a pair of kidneys. In each kidney got 1 million mini filters called nephrons. Each kidney. So got 2 million. And actually, if you have about 600,000 nephrons, you can already have normal kidney function. Can you survive on one kidney? Yes, you can. That means that we are born with almost 3 to 4 times more mini filters than what we actually need. Okay, because why? Our creator knows that as we get older, we might lose some of these filters. So you got to, even with that, some people can destroy all their filters. As I look at a number of people going into kidney failure. You know why people go into kidney failure? 60% of time is because of diabetes. Another 30% is because of high blood pressure. So high blood pressure plus diabetes causes 90% of kidney problems. That's why when I say level 1 disease, remember you got level 1, level 2. What is in the level 1? I put that number 1 diabetes, number 2 high blood pressure, number 3 is dyslipidemia. The cholesterol issue actually can be managed as long as you take care of oxidation. Okay, but diabetes and high blood pressure, dangerous conditions. And if you can control level one, level two, you have more than 90% chance that you will not get it. On that. So when you look at the how the kidneys work, of course, we have gone through this in anatomy, body systems. Okay, so this is normal kidney, like nice and healthy. You can see proper blood flow. It's actually going through all the filters properly. But when you start seeing conditions like this, reduction in blood flow, in a scan or even in your kidney function, we can see already starting to compromise. EGFR dropping, stage one drop to stage two to stage three, and all that. Okay, and then blood flow. The normal healthy kidney filters out about 180 to 200 liters of blood per day. Okay, through the production of urine, they act as filters that clean blood and remove organic waste of digestion, excess salt, water, and small protein molecules present in excessive amount. Okay, so this is what the kidney generally does in terms of excretory process. Okay, each kidney has a basic filtering unit called nephrons. That's why a kidney specialist and all that, we call them a nephrologist. All that. The nephrons are tiny networks of tubules that, at magnification of 100 times, appears like a nexus of a human brain. Mini filters. When we expand them, almost similar look to the certain things in the brain. All that. So together, both kidneys contain over approximate 2 million of these waste processing nephrons. So we got 3 to 4 times more than what we actually need. And generally, we can survive with one healthy kidney, generally. That's why sometimes some people donate their kidney and all that. Okay, approximately 99% of fluids removed from the blood by the kidneys are reabsorbed. That's how it maintains fluid balance. Together with glucose, salt, vitamins, whatever that the body can use, it will reabsorb back into circulation. Okay, in this way, the kidney controls the balance between acid and alkaline conditions of the body's tissue. So pH balance, the main organ that controls the pH of blood, maintaining it between 7.35 to 7.45 is the kidney. Okay, and the balance between water and salt in the body. So your electrolyte balance controlled by your kidney. Okay, then what else is controlled by a kidney? Blood pressure is controlled and regulated by a kidney. Your heart is a pump that receives signals, and a lot of the signals, some of the signals are coming from the kidney. So the kidney is responsible for blood pressure. That's why when somebody has kidney problems, oh, blood pressure is going to have issues, creating of red blood cell also, because why? The kidney produces a hormone called erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is needed for red blood cell production. So somebody with kidney failure and all that, red blood cell production also affected. So you can see the hematology part all out of whack. On that. Very important. Playing a major role in maintaining the balance of water in the body. Okay, it excretes generally 1.5 to 2 liters of urine on a daily basis. Okay, that's why you need to drink at least 2.5 to 3 liters. Now, some people say, hey, Prof, if I drink 2.5 to 3 liters and urine only about 2 liters, how is so every day that means got extra water in the body? No, when you breathe, you're breathing, you can lose about half a liter to 3/4 liter of water. Uh, some people say, hey, wow, breathing can lose fluid. Yeah, you try to blow into a mirror. Do you see moisture or not? Water, lah. So in our breathing process also we can be losing moisture, and then we also have metabolic waste, water and water that is being lost when you pass motion, and all that. Okay, so and in this urine it contains digestion waste, uric acid, urea, creatinine. In order to accomplish this, the kidney filters about 200 liters of blood every 24 hours, close to 4 times the body liquid weight. So 4 times the body's liquid weight is being remember I told you you are 70 kilos, about 44 kilos is fluids. So 44 times 4, okay, is coming up to about 170, 180. So 4 times the amount of fluids that you have in the body is being filtered every day, to keep it nice and clean, removing all the toxins. Okay, so different types of kidney problems are disease, cancerous kidney. See this? Then you got something called E. coli. E. coli, kidney infections, urinary tract infections. One of the most common microbes that cause this is E. coli. E. coli comes from the colon, sometimes hygiene, females, because the anus and the vagina and the urinary opening, the orifice, urinary orifice, they're all very close, especially for females. Because why? It's on the same surface. Males, the urethra is longer because of the penis. Okay, so that's why females are more prone for urinary tract infection. Hygiene is very important. Wash. You cannot wash from the back to the front. Cannot. You must always wash towards the back. And this is a mistake. Whether it's wiping, washing, and all that. If you from the back, from the anus towards the vagina and all that, you're asking for trouble already. Definitely going to have cross contamination. Okay, and going to cause infection because E. coli is always present in the colon. Okay, and if you get a urinary tract infection and it starts moving up towards your kidney and is not treated properly and all these kind of things, it can get worse and worse. In fact, this is the kidney that has got E. coli infected and can cause total kidney failure. All that. But most of the time we catch this early because why? Urinary tract infection got symptoms including pain, discomfort, frequent urination, blood in urine, all that. So it will be caught early for most cases. But then there's also some extreme cases like this. Okay, and then you have the lungs. We are breathing 14 to 16 times in a minute. So what happens? The word respiration basically means breathe again. In Latin, breathe again. Yet breathing is much more than just inhalation and exhalation. Our respiratory system is an intricate arrangement of spaces. Okay, so we have gone through the anatomy part and all that. Okay, so basically what happens is gas exchange. Okay, oxygen coming in, carbon dioxide going out. Okay, easier said than done because two things happen. One is happening at the lungs, the other one is happening at the cell. Cellular respiration. Okay, that means it's internal and external. Two things are happening. Okay, so continuous, our body cells require a continuous supply of oxygen and a means of disposing the carbon dioxide that is produced by the cells as a waste product. So internal respiration, the cells takes the oxygen, okay, and then use it, and then you got a waste product called carbon dioxide. Then this carbon dioxide travels in the blood, comes to the lungs, okay, and then you have external respiration, which basically, okay, the carbon dioxide is exhaled out, and then the lungs will absorb oxygen. So that is a continuous process, and in a minute, you're breathing between 14 to 16 times. So can you imagine continuously happening? So while that process is happening, there's also a very high chance that toxins can also get into the body. So you're removing carbon dioxide, which is considered a toxin. When the levels get high, it can create a lot of problems in the body. Okay, so you're removing it. But the mere process of breathing also can actually introduce toxins into the body. Okay, so where does all this happen in terms of gas exchange? It happens at the alveoli. The grape-like structure here that you see towards the end of your bronchioles and all that, this is where the gas exchange happens. And this is also the same area where for smokers, okay, for smokers, this is where tar will accumulate, gum to block the alveoli. That's why smokers are very shallow breathers. Uh, and most of them who are chronic disease, of course, 90% of lung cancer patients are smokers. Okay. And then they are constantly out of breath. Coughing is a very normal symptom. Okay. And then they are always gasping, always lack of oxygen in their circulation. Okay, there are two aspects of respiration. So this is the one I told earlier. External respiration, okay, that takes place in the lungs. CO2 going out, O2 coming in. And then there's one internal that is happening in the cell. Okay, O2 coming in, CO2 going out. On that. Okay, so this is where oxygen molecules from the outside air attach themselves to red blood cells and travel to the capillaries where oxygen molecules slip through the wall of the capillary and utilize as fuel, okay, by tissue cells. Okay, so that is to produce cellular energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, where you got oxygen together with glucose that produces cellular energy. Okay, so this is the one, second one. Sorry. Okay, internal respiration refers to gas exchange between blood and the body cells, and within the oxygen leaves the blood and enters the cell. At the same time, carbon dioxide leaves the cell and enters the blood via via the red blood cell. So you must know the difference between internal and external respiration. It's happening concurrently, continuously. That's what keeps us alive. Okay. Once in the lung via circulation, we then expel this carbon dioxide as exhalation. This is another way our body regulates our acid alkaline balance. Remember this, I told you the main organ that controls pH of the blood, maintaining it between 7.35 and 7.45, is our kidney. That's the main one. But sometimes the kidney needs help. Okay, the kidney needs help. It takes calcium from the bones and all that, but it cannot do it fast enough because why? The person ate too much of junk food, okay, and all that, too much of sugar. Sugar is acidic, all that. So the body goes into what we call a stress response requirement. Okay, now the brain sends a message to the lungs to tell the lungs to breathe more heavily. Suddenly you notice that your breathing is a bit more deeper, you're breathing more times a minute, and you cannot understand why. You're just sitting down and you're breathing a bit more heavier. You know why? It wants more oxygen, because oxygen will also help in the pH balance, because oxygen makes the blood more alkaline. So when you breathe more heavier, you're pushing out CO2. CO2 makes the blood more acidic. Okay, and then you're bringing in oxygen. And many people have asked me this question, Prof, sometimes why when I'm sitting down and all that, I notice that my breathing is a bit more heavier. There's no activity or anything that they cannot understand. Yeah, I say your body is in the process of pH balancing. It's using oxygen to help to alkalinize the system. So it's something normal. Okay, but you, of course, you don't want to reach a level where it's palpitations. Wow, rapid heart rate, all that is different already. Arrhythmia and all that different. Okay, toxins entry mode. In the normal act of breathing, we can also take in other substances that might be carcinogenic. During the time of the haze, people are bringing people, wow, bro, so hazy, and then in this haze, they got so much of toxins, got all these suspended particles, and all these different, what is this, PCB, all are different toxins and all that. Okay, and you're breathing it in. That's why I told you just now. If it is below 2.5 microns, it will go straight into your blood. Tough. That's why, during that time and all that, we say, okay, we also need proper type of safety apparatus like your mask and all that, especially the N95 mask that can actually have a better, what is this, finer level of filtration and all this. Okay, so what happens here is, okay, pollution fragments of lead, sulfur, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, they are all toxins and all that they can get into our system. Sometimes I see people exercising next to a busy highway. See, you will be healthier if you don't exercise. You go and exercise next to a busy roadway or highway, carbon monoxide. When you exercise, your lungs become 100 times more absorbent. So where you exercise also important, lah. You want to exercise for good health, but you're exercising in the wrong place. That is just keep putting in more and more toxins into your body. So these are things, sometimes we say, okay, must use a little bit of common sense. Okay, so and what is this, so what happens is when these toxins getting eventually this carcinogen means what? Cancer causing agents. That's what it means. Okay, can make their way to our tissues via the bloodstream and tissues through the capillary walls. Elimination naturally done by the immune and lymphatics together with mucus, cilia, and lysozyme. Our body is not weak. That's why I say you try to minimize the input, but in case they get in, if your other systems are all working well, it will be able to neutralize and remove it from the body. The problem starts when all our other systems are also compromised. That's when problem starts. Then the process of accumulation, you cannot totally stop toxin from getting in your body. Cannot. As long as we are alive, you cannot. It comes from food, from breathing, from everything, from water, from your clothing, whatever that you use. So you cannot stop. But can you minimize? Yes, you can control what you are consuming. You can control what you're applying. Okay, but breathing may be a bit difficult lah, because while you're breathing and sometimes a lot of things you cannot see and all that. But then that also is being handled by the body, because we have all these different mechanisms that filters out and removes it. That's why sometimes when we are coughing or sneezing and all that, coughing and sneezing is one of the ways that the body is actually removing toxins. Just to let you know. All that. Mucus production and all this. Okay, so and of course lah, the biggest issue is smoking lah. 400 chemicals out of these 400 chemicals, 40 of the chemicals in cigarette smoke are carcinogenic agents, carcinogens. All that. So inflammation, a lot of that, of course, lung cancer is also very high. Okay, and all that, and these are one of the cancers, especially small cell lung cancer is one of the type of cancers that will kill. That one and pancreatic. These are the two most dangerous cancers that has got very low chance of survival. And all that. Small cell lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, very low chance. Okay, and you can see, okay, sometimes what can also happen is uh, some people are very sensitive to some of this pollutant. It will trigger something called an anaphylactic shock, asthma conditions. All that. These are normal airway. You see the opening here. Okay, so air can go in and out. But when somebody is subjected to an anaphylactic shock because of sensitivity to allergens, okay, sensitivity to allergens and all that, the airway can close very small, so they're out of breath, and sometimes because of lack of air going into their lungs, they can also die. Some people are sensitive to certain food like peanuts, certain types of food, even what is this, nuts and seafood and all that. But peanuts allergy can trigger some serious anaphylactic shock. So sometimes when they are allergic to that, must be careful because peanuts alone you can see lah. But a lot of food stuff, processed food stuff, use peanuts as part of their ingredients. That's why we need to really check and see. We have seen lots of complication in these areas lah. Oh yeah. Husband smoke. Yeah, the second hand smoke, third hand smoke lah. Sensitivity also related to gene expression because why? The wives, in this case, the one that on the chat, the wife's gene expression for the detox phase one, phase two is very poor. That means the process in the body is very weak. Husband's one can be very strong, so he smoke, the body can neutralize and throw it out. 60 years he can smoke and still got no lung cancer. But because the wife's detox phase is very weak, even with a little bit of trigger, she develops lung cancer. Yeah, we have seen this so many times. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, timing and all that. So all this, so all this, okay, are part and puzzle, okay, of what we go through on a day-to-day basis. Is there perfection? No, I don't have. Okay. The best we can do is mitigate the risk, lower down the risk factors. Okay. But we also need to understand, is the body weak or is the body strong? The body is strong, but the body needs help, especially as we are getting older. Understand? And a lot of basic things, the fundamentals, the magic five, your diet, your hydration, your sleep and rest, your physical activity and exercise, how you manage your stress. Is all this within your control? It is within your control, and they're important. So I always say, do the basics right in any kind of intervention. Okay. First thing you need to focus is doing the basics right. Okay, many people tend to look for complicated solutions out of the box and all. Yeah, they are helpful, but if you don't do the basics right, like what I told you yesterday, the group that I met, they're all talking about complicated solutions, complicated solutions. But when I start talking about the basic, then they all start thinking, oh, you know why? I can see from the group, all coffee drinkers, all this kind of thing, water is not something that is of their priority, and they drink when they're thirsty. And when I tell them that, do you know one of the main causes of heart disease is when you don't drink water, suddenly everybody is quiet. Then I have to tell them what is in the blood. The heart is a pump. And you know what? Half of those sitting there are medical doctors. You know or not? So as I said, don't complicate matters. You know, God is fair, lah, regardless of your faith. He has provided all the basics. You know, take care of the basics first. Then because of the aging process, of course, we will need some additional help here and there, but the additional help will only work well for you if you're doing the basics right. True or not? All this. Okay. So that covers the topic for today. Okay. And what is this? Tomorrow I want to address some questions. IHI admin has actually given me some questions here. So I've reserved tomorrow to address these questions. So if you have any particular questions, you can also send it out to IHI. I mean, tomorrow is the day that I'm going to address questions that have been sent. So there's quite a few years, a lot of similar questions, so we have combined and all that. So tomorrow I'm also going to talk about gut health a little bit more about the microbiome. Okay, what is happening and all that. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about how fasting helps, lah. You know, intermittent fasting, the process of autophagy. Autophagy is the body's natural process of detoxification. Okay, because the body is an excellent recycler. Okay, so what you need to do today, okay, don't get too stressed up and all this. Okay, so just go through a little bit of what we went through today and all that. Tomorrow we're going to continue on that, and then, at least, it's not just about knowing in theory. Okay, I also want to know how you're going to apply this on your day-to-day life. Okay, so application is important. Is monitoring important or not? Very important, because you can be doing everything right, but don't forget every one of us is different. Sometimes we carry certain genetic mutations or genetic abnormalities, that is creating a lot of problems without you knowing. All that, so these are step-by-step approach. Listen to your body, listen to your body in terms of what it needs. Okay, and at the same time also trusting in science. Okay, to actually see what is best for you, because every one of us are different. Okay. Huh? So tomorrow classes, don't forget, tomorrow we have the replacement class. Okay. So I will, what is it? Oh, it's already one something. Okay. So I will see you all tomorrow. Okay. Have a pleasant Saturday. Okay. Don't sleep too late tonight. Normally Saturday, sometimes party night. Forget tomorrow got class. And all that. Okay. Don't sleep too late. Have a good rest. Okay. And I will see you all tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Everybody okay? Okay. So see you all tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye.